Min reaktion på det amerikanske besøg er flere ting. Så kan det her ikke ses uafhængigt af de udsagn og de meldinger, vi har hørt fra amerikansk side.
After weeks of speculation that he wants to take over Greenland, President Trump is doubling down on his suggestion that the U.S. will play a larger role in the island's future.
I think, well, not provocation. This is friendliness, not provocation. We're dealing with a lot of people from Greenland that would like to see something happen.
On March 13th, 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump made a bold declaration during a meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Trump reaffirmed his ambition to take control of Greenland, a strategically located island rich in natural resources and pivotal for global security, particularly in the Arctic. Trump famously said, "We need it, and it will happen." But his words quickly sent shockwaves across the Atlantic. Denmark, which governs Greenland, responded almost immediately, with Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen firmly stating, "Greenland is not for sale. It is part of Denmark, and that's final." This was no ordinary political rhetoric. Denmark's swift, unwavering rejection of Trump's ambitions was a direct challenge to U.S. interests. What followed was a show of unity by the European Union and NATO, both of which backed Denmark's position. Europe sent a loud and clear message. No part of EU territory is up for negotiation. This marked a significant turning point in U.S.-European relations, demonstrating Europe's resolve to defend its sovereignty. It wasn't just about Greenland. It was about setting boundaries for the U.S. on the global stage. While Trump was igniting a political firestorm over Greenland, a far more personal crisis was unfolding within the tech and automotive world. Tesla, the company that was once hailed as the pioneer of electric vehicles, EVs, faced a massive crisis in Europe. At the start of 2025, Tesla's sales plummeted by 45% in Europe, a staggering drop that has sent shockwaves through the auto industry. The company's struggles aren't just about poor sales figures, they are the result of years of corporate missteps. European pension funds, some of the largest institutional investors, began pulling out of Tesla entirely. Denmark's two largest pension funds, Pension Denmark and Academic Pension, divested from Tesla, citing concerns over labor rights, corporate governance, and the toxic influence of Elon Musk's political affiliations. These pension funds weren't just shedding stock, they were making a public statement about the ethical concerns surrounding Tesla's leadership. The company's refusal to sign labor agreements with Swedish workers in 2023 led to widespread strikes in the region, and the Nordic countries, Denmark, Norway, and Finland, joined in, imposing blockades on Tesla shipments. This sparked a massive backlash across Europe, a region where labor rights are considered a core value. Tesla's failure to respect labor laws was perceived as a direct affront to European values. In particular, Tesla's anti-union stance led to escalating tensions, with unions organizing protests and refusing to handle Tesla shipments. These disruptions were not just an inconvenience, they were a major blow to Tesla's operations in Europe, resulting in a halt in service centers and a paralyzed supply chain. By the end of 2024, it was clear that Tesla's brand had taken a severe hit in Europe. According to the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, ACEA, Tesla's European sales dropped by 45% in January 2025, compared to a much smaller overall market decline. And the loss wasn't just in sales, it was in consumer trust. A survey in the UK revealed that nearly 59% of electric vehicle buyers refused to purchase a Tesla, not because of the vehicle's performance, but because they didn't want to be associated with Elon Musk's political stance. Musk's increasingly controversial support for far-right movements, such as his backing of the Alternative for Germany, AfD party, criticizing the UK government, and aligning with Italy's nationalist Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, alienated a significant portion of European consumers. In countries like Germany, Tesla's market share was rapidly shrinking. By early 2025, Tesla's sales in Germany plunged by 76% in just 2 months. Meanwhile, the entire EV market in Germany grew by 30%, with Volkswagen, Renault, and Chinese EV brands gaining significant ground. One European Union official summed it up. Musk was once a green tech icon, Now he's an opponent of European values. Tesla's fall from grace is a direct consequence of its failure to align with European values, especially regarding labor rights and environmental policies. The irony is striking. A company built on sustainable development now finds itself at odds with Europe's green policies. Tesla's labor disputes with European unions have been one of the most critical factors in its downfall. The company's refusal to sign a collective bargaining agreement with Swedish workers in 2023 sparked massive strikes across the Nordic region, further escalating tensions. These strikes weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a broader pattern of resistance against Tesla's corporate policies. Tesla's anti-union stance is viewed by many in Europe as a blatant disregard for workers' rights. In Denmark, Norway, and Finland, unions blockaded Tesla shipments, creating a paralyzed supply chain. These were not just temporary disruptions. They were clear signs that Tesla was not welcome in these markets, at least not in its current form. The cultural divide was wide. In Europe, where labor rights are seen as non-negotiable, Tesla's refusal to adapt to local standards was viewed as a direct attack on European labor culture. While Tesla's reputation and sales plummeted, European competitors were capitalizing on the opportunity. Volkswagen, BMW, and Renault have all seen significant growth in the EV market. But the key to their success isn't just their vehicles, it's their alignment with European values. Unlike Tesla, these companies understand the importance of labor rights, local hiring, and union compliance. They are committed to sustainability, and they understand that European consumers not only want advanced technology, but also a brand that aligns with their values. As Tesla's brand appeal fades, Volkswagen and Renault continue to dominate, further eroding Tesla's market share in the EU. Once the undisputed leader in the EV space, Tesla is now at a crossroads. The company that was once synonymous with innovation and progress has become a polarizing brand. In Germany, 94% of consumers said they had no interest in purchasing a Tesla, an outright rejection of the once beloved brand. For many, Tesla is no longer a symbol of the future, but a brand tarnished by controversy. Musk's political stances, his refusal to comply with labor laws, and his downplaying of climate change have turned many potential customers away. Tesla was built on the foundation of sustainable development. Now it's become a cautionary tale of how corporate ethics and political actions can have far-reaching consequences on a global scale. With Tesla's credibility in freefall, and Trump's political moves challenging Europe's territorial sovereignty, US-Europe relations are at a tipping point. Europe is no longer willing to back down, whether it's about Greenland or the future of Tesla. For Tesla, the stakes couldn't be higher. If the company doesn't rebuild its reputation in Europe, it risks losing its place as a leader in the global automotive market. Meanwhile, Trump's approach to diplomacy and trade continues to strain transatlantic relations, as Europe pushes back against US unilateralism. What happens next? Will Tesla recover, or has it already lost Europe for good? And will the US shift its strategy to prevent a deeper rift with the EU? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. In March 2025, tensions between the US and Europe escalated further as EU Trade Commissioner Maros Sefcovic met with top US officials to head off harmful tariffs that President Trump threatened to impose. These tariffs were part of Trump's broader strategy to tackle non-tariff trade barriers and impose reciprocal duties on major trading partners. The EU's priority was clear: to avoid unjustified tariffs and ensure a fair and balanced trade deal. Despite multiple meetings with top Trump administration officials, Sefcovic made it clear that progress had been slow, with no immediate resolution in sight. The US was prepared to raise tariffs on EU goods, particularly in the automotive sector, which would see a 25% tariff on US truck imports and 10% on EU car imports. This has been a part of Trump's Liberation Day plan, aimed at reclaiming the US economy from what he perceives as unfair global trade practices. As Europe continues to face the looming threat of these tariffs, the EU remains determined to avoid a full-blown trade war. However, this confrontation highlights the increasingly fragile trade relations between the US and Europe. With rising tariffs and economic retaliation on both sides, the fallout from these trade disputes is beginning to affect not only the auto industry but other sectors as well, further straining transatlantic relations. The U.S.'s pressure on Greenland also exemplifies its broader strategy of using economic leverage to achieve political objectives, a tactic that has only deepened the rift between the U.S. and Europe. On March 25, 2025, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen criticized the U.S. for its unacceptable pressure regarding Greenland, calling the U.S. actions unilateral and dismissive of Denmark's sovereignty. This followed a controversial visit by U.S. officials to Greenland, which Denmark saw as an attempt to force Greenland's sale to the United States. Frederiksen's response was unequivocal. Greenland is not for sale and will never be sold, emphasizing the sovereign rights of Denmark and Greenland in the face of U.S. interference. This confrontation came on the heels of an already strained political climate between the U.S. and Europe, exacerbated by Trump's aggressive foreign policy and trade tactics. The situation underscores the growing unease in Europe over U.S. dominance in global geopolitics and trade. In response, European leaders have increasingly emphasized national sovereignty and self-determination, signaling a shift towards more independent foreign policy stances within the EU. This is a critical moment that highlights how trade policies and territorial disputes are increasingly intertwined, with economic power plays becoming a tool for diplomatic leverage. These developments also tie into the broader picture of transatlantic trade relations and the economic fallout that both sides are facing. The EU, as a major trading bloc, has voiced concerns over the U.S. administration's approach to tariffs and trade restrictions, especially in critical sectors, such as automobiles and technology. While the U.S. seeks to counteract what it sees as unfair trade practices by imposing tariffs, the European Union continues to argue that such moves would harm both sides by disrupting supply chains and escalating economic tensions. At the core of these disputes is the shift in global power dynamics. The EU's efforts to resist the U.S.'s imposition of tariffs are part of a larger trend where Europe is becoming more assertive in defending its interests. This is particularly true as China's rise as an economic power also factors into the equation, with Europe balancing its trade interests between the U.S., China, and other emerging economies. In light of these challenges, European officials are seeking alternative avenues to maintain economic stability and avoid the potential disruption that a full-scale trade war could bring. The EU's trade policy now emphasizes cooperation and dialogue, working with U.S. officials to prevent long-term damage, while also preparing for possible retaliatory actions. The stakes are high. If the EU and U.S. cannot resolve their trade differences, the impact could be felt across the global economy, especially in industries already grappling with the uncertainty of a post-pandemic world. In the battle between Tesla and Europe, and between Trump and European sovereignty, one thing is clear: the global balance of power is shifting. Tesla, once the face of green innovation, is now struggling to maintain its footing in Europe. Meanwhile, Trump's Greenland ambitions are sparking a geopolitical crisis with Europe. As the US and Europe collide, the world is watching to see how this tension will unfold. Stay tuned, because the biggest changes in international relations and corporate strategy are just beginning. Relations and the economic fallout that both sides are facing. The EU, as a major trading bloc, has voiced concerns over the U.S. administration's approach to tariffs and trade restrictions, especially in critical sectors, such as automobiles and technology. While the U.S. seeks to counteract what it sees as unfair trade practices by imposing tariffs, the European Union continues to argue that such moves would harm both sides by disrupting supply chains and escalating economic tensions. At the core of these disputes is the shift in global power dynamics. The EU's efforts to resist the U.S.'s imposition of tariffs are part of a larger trend where Europe is becoming more assertive in defending its interests. This is particularly true as China's rise as an economic power also factors into the equation, with Europe balancing its trade interests between the U.S., China, and other emerging economies. In light of these challenges, European officials are seeking alternative avenues to maintain economic stability and avoid the potential disruption that a full-scale trade war could bring. The EU's trade policy now emphasizes cooperation and dialogue, working with